Here is a quick refresher on time signatures and how they work. Without time signatures, we don't know where to put our bar lines, and everything just turns into one giant mesh, and it becomes impossible where to track our music and how to follow along. So, we need to determine what is the most common rhythm. In this case, we have a lot of quarter notes. Now, quarter notes in music in time signatures is relative or equal to the number 4. 4 is just shorthand. If you look at our basic rhythm tree, you see these numbers here. These numbers are not just a reminder of how many fit into measure, but these numbers are also the secret code to what numbers will fit on the bottom of a time signature. In this case, quarter notes is the number 4. Next thing we need to determine is how many quarter notes are going to fit in a measure. So if we come back here, let's say we want to fit in 3 quarter notes. 3 tells us how many, and 4 is the secret code for quarter notes. And now every measure has 3 quarter notes. Top number tells us how many, bottom number tells us what of how many. So in this case, 4 is quarter notes. If you're lucky enough to come across it, we can change that bottom 4 to a quarter note, but you'll never see that. We can try out a different number on top, such as 4 quarter notes per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. We can go 2 quarter notes per measure. We can go 1 quarter note per measure. We can go crazy like 13 quarter notes per measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and then we have the 13 put in a rest there. You'll never see this. But the most common one is our 4/4 time signature, 4 quarter notes per measure. In fact, it is so common that we'll refer to it as common time, often printed in music as a C for common time. Notice it didn't change a thing because 4/4 and common time are the exact same thing. If we come over here, we have mostly eighth notes. And you might be able to guess that the secret code for the bottom number of a time signature for eighth notes is 8. What you'll see most common is 6/8, which means 6 eighth notes per measure. Top number tells us how many, bottom number tells us how many of what. So in this case, 8 eighth notes. Eighth notes referring to the number 8. If you can't figure that out, it comes from this original chart. And now every measure has 6 eighth notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We can go 3/8. Now every measure has 3 eighth notes. We can go 2/8. Changes how it looks, but we're still at 2 eighth notes per measure. We can do 1 eighth note per measure. And notice that the eighth notes change to the single form of the eighth notes. You'll never see this. Over here, we have a lot of half notes going on, so it might make sense that half note gets our beat. And I'm sure you can figure out half note corresponds to the number 2. We can double check that with our basic rhythm tree. This never changes. Half note will always refer to 2. So it doesn't matter how we construct our time signature. If you put a 2 in the bottom, that will always be a half note. If you put a 4 in the bottom, that will always be a quarter note. You can put a 16th on the bottom, and that will always refer to 16th notes. These are the only numbers you have to worry about. There is no 5, there is no 3, there is no 8.16. It's either 8 or 16. So we can come in here. I'm looking at how this might be divided up. And let's go with 2 half notes, 2 over 2. And now every measure will consist of the same amount of time as 2 half notes. Remember, 2 quarter notes take up the same amount of time as 4 quarter notes will take up the same amount of time as 2 half notes. 4 quarter notes, 2 half notes. 1 whole note takes up the same amount of time as 2 half notes. 2 half notes, 2 half notes, 2 half notes, 2 half notes. And you might be thinking, wow, this looks a lot like 4/4. After all, 4 quarter notes are in this measure, 4 quarter notes are in this measure, and what changes is how we count this. In 2 over 2, we are tracking the half notes. This is, let's see here, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, and 2, and 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Every measure has 2. If we change this to 4/4, it changes how we count. Now we have to track 4 counts per measure instead of 2. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Took me a while to find a beat there. Since it was more to say to count to 4, it would make more sense to leave this in 2. So that's all for now on time signatures. Let me know if you have any questions.